Watch his thumb. That's the whole opening shot. A thumb hovering over a phone screen in a dark kitchen at 7:14 in the morning. The coffee maker hasn't finished its first cycle. Outside, Toledo, Ohio, is still gray with early light. He's still wearing yesterday's socks. And before anything else happens today, before the coffee, before a single word, before the day gets any say in the matter, that thumb taps twice and $50 leaves his account. Not $55, not $47, not whatever's floating around. 50, exact, gone to a place he never opens just to look at. He's made the same motion at the same hour every payday for 14 months. His sister doesn't know. His co-workers at the pharmacy counter don't know. As far as anyone in his life is concerned, this moment doesn't exist. Here's the detail that should stop you. This man takes home $2,380 a month. Say that number to any financial advisor and watch them wince. That's not a number people build safety nets from, they'll tell you. And yet right now, before his coffee is even ready, he is sitting on 3 full months of survival money. Not a cushion. 3 entire months. And it's still climbing. $50 did that. Not a bonus, not a windfall, not a raise. $50 moved in silence over and over until the silence turned into something you could actually stand on. There's a rule folded inside that number. 3 moves, so simple they'll sound almost insulting when I say them out loud. And you'll have all 3 by the end of this video, but not yet. Hand them to you now and you'll do what you've done with every other piece of financial advice you've ever half listened to. Nod, feel briefly inspired. Forget this video by Tuesday. So sit with the question first. Why did $50 succeed where 500 kept failing? I'm William, and here's what should genuinely bother you once you see it clearly. Almost every piece of savings advice ever published was written by someone who never had to think hard about $50. Save 20% of your income. 20% of what? Rent already took its cut. The car payment already took its cut. Insurance, groceries, the phone bill. Everything that doesn't ask permission has already been paid. 20% of whatever's left isn't a strategy, it's a punchline. 20% of nothing is still nothing. The personal finance industry hands out percentage plans built for people who have leftovers, then acts baffled when everyone without them quits. If you've typed your real numbers into a savings calculator, watched it spit back, goal reached in 11 years, and quietly closed the tab, that wasn't failure. That was a rational person recognizing a broken tool. If you've started a savings plan 3 times and watched everyone collapse by month 2, the plan failed you, not the reverse. It happened to the man in that Toledo kitchen too, twice, before he stumbled onto something else entirely. And the timing here cuts deeper than you'd think. In 2026, the Federal Reserve's own household survey keeps returning the same brutal number. Nearly 4 in 10 American adults couldn't cover a surprise $400 expense with cash. Bank rates figures are worse. Fewer than half could absorb a $1,000 emergency without borrowing their way out. And researchers at the J.P. Morgan Chase Institute found something almost nobody says out loud. For lower-income households, income itself doesn't just stay thin. It swings by double digits, month to month, like the floor never quite stops moving under you. The paycheck isn't only small, it's unstable. Any plan built on a calm, predictable surplus was written for somebody else's life. Which brings us back to that kitchen table. Call him Marcus, 33, a pharmacy technician, 11 years into the job. Take-home pay, $2,380, landing every other Friday like clockwork. Reliable in timing, brutal in size. 18 months ago, his financial life had a texture you'll recognize instantly if you've lived inside it. Not poverty, precision. Every dollar had a job before it arrived. Every month was a landing he had to stick without turbulence. $12 extra was the entire margin between a calm week and a tense one. And underneath it all sat one specific dread. The sound his car hadn't made yet, but would. Then came a Tuesday, 11:52 p.m. A permission slip under the kitchen light. His daughter's school field trip. Cost $65. He didn't panic. He did something quieter and worse. He sat there, calm, almost mechanical, sliding numbers between categories the way you'd shove furniture around a room already too small to hold it. $65, and it took rearranging his entire month just to make space for it. That was the night he said the sentence out loud to nobody in an empty kitchen. One missed paycheck and everything falls. He didn't know it yet, but that sentence was the last one of the old version of his life. He didn't learn what came next from a bank, an app, or a finance degree. He learned it from his Uncle Sal. Sal set tile for 31 years. Kitchens, office lobbies, one hotel pool he'd bring up at every Thanksgiving, whether anyone asked or not. Marcus asked him once, half joking, how he could stand staring at a floor that would take 4 months to finish. Sal looked at him the way you look at someone who's just said something a little foolish. "I've never set a floor in my life," he said. "I set the next tile." That was the whole answer. He never thought about the lobby. The lobby wasn't his problem. His problem was one tile. Level, true, done. Then, only then, the tile after it. 31 years of that. And behind him now, acres of finished floor he never once had to hold in his head all at once. Marcus drove home that night and sat back down with the wreckage of his second failed plan spread across the table. This time a different question showed up. What is my tile? Here's what his 2 failed plans had in common. The same fracture running through nearly every savings plan that's ever quietly collapsed. A massive number waiting at the finish line. A monthly demand shouting at him from the middle. Save $500 a month. Build $20,000. This sounds backwards, but stay with it. That structure doesn't fail from weak willpower. It fails from how the brain is built. The economist Richard Thaler spent decades proving something almost nobody intuits. We don't experience money as one pool. We split it into separate mental compartments, and a huge, distant goal lights up a different part of the brain than a small, immediate action does. A giant number sitting far out in the future doesn't motivate you. It argues with you. Every month you look up from $300 saved toward a $20,000 mountain, and the gap does all the talking, and the gap wins. Big, ambitious plans rarely die of bad math. They die of the view. So Marcus built something with a different view entirely. 3 moves. I'll name all 3 now, then spend the rest of this video proving why each one works. The brick, the conversion, the ceiling. Together, this is the $50 rule. And before you assume you already know where this goes, it is not save $50 a week. If it were that simple, this would be a 30-second video, and you'd have abandoned it by March exactly like Paulette did. Hold that name. We're coming back to her. A brick is $50. Under this rule, $50 is the only unit your emergency fund is allowed to exist in. Not a year of expenses. Not $20,000 staring you down like something you already owe it. 1 brick, then the next one. Marcus calculated his real survival number. Not his lifestyle, his survival, rent, utilities, groceries, insurance, transportation, phone. Nothing else made the list. $1,700 a month. A full year of bare survival. $20,400. He wrote that number down exactly once. Divided it by 50, got 408. 408 bricks between him and a finished wall. And then, this is the part that actually matters. He never looked at that number again. From that day forward, his entire savings life folded into one automated action. Every other Friday, 7:14 a.m. before coffee, before the day had a single chance to talk him out of anything, 1 brick moved itself, automatically, somewhere he couldn't easily reach it. The discipline happened exactly once, the day he set up the transfer. After that, the machine handled every morning that followed. He no longer had to be disciplined. He just had to not switch the machine off. This is the part almost everyone watching is about to miss, and it's the real engine driving the whole thing. The payday brick is just the heartbeat. Small, steady, easy to stop noticing. The real construction happens somewhere else entirely. The instant money gets freed up or found or lands in his lap when he wasn't expecting it. Marcus canceled a storage unit he'd been avoiding thinking about for a year. $89 a month gone. Under the rule, freed money never gets the chance to melt back into the month. It converts. 1 brick laid the same day every month permanently, with his name essentially stamped on the reason it exists. Then his tax refund landed $1,140. Here's the trap almost nobody sees coming until it's too late. Windfalls like this get mentally filed under fun money, and they evaporate roughly twice as fast as regular income. So the rule builds in an answer: a 24-hour capture window. Within one day, that refund became 22 bricks, laid, counted, gone from temptation's reach before temptation even noticed it had arrived. A co-worker asked him to cover a weekend shift. 2 more bricks, an insurance refund nobody saw coming, 1 more. 39 cents left over afterward, which he kept, purely for the joy of it. This is how a $50 habit ends up building a wall at what feels like a $400 pace. The brick is the rhythm, the conversion is the growth. Most people never build the second half of the machine at all, and that's the entire reason their walls stay small. This is the strangest rule of the 3. It's also the one that quietly saves the whole plan around month 5, right when motivation peaks and discipline is thinnest, which is exactly when most people burn everything they've built. Under the $50 rule, you are never, under any circumstance, allowed to make a savings decision bigger than $50. Not, I'm feeling strong this month, let me throw in $300. Here's the trap hiding inside that impulse. The same burst of ambition that convinces you to drop $300 in on a good month is the exact instinct that convinces you to quit on a bad one. Big moves in both directions come from the same place in your head. The ceiling keeps the system boring on purpose. Boring, it turns out, is the entire point. You lay a brick, or a few, one decision at a time. And on the months, the car finally does make that sound, and there are no bricks laid at all. Here's what happens under this rule that never happens under a percentage plan. Nothing breaks. A percentage plan misses 1 month and dies of shame. One skip transfer becomes permission to skip the next, and the next, until the whole thing is quietly dead and nobody even marks the date. A brick wall just waits. It doesn't judge you. It's exactly as tall as it was yesterday, and the next brick is exactly $50, same as always, whenever you're ready to lay it. You don't save a year. You lay a brick. I can already hear the objection, so let's put it in the open instead of pretending it isn't there. William, $50 is nothing. At this rate, it takes forever. Both halves of that are true, and I won't dress it up. At Marcus's real pace, all 408 bricks take just under 4 years. But here's what that objection completely misses. And it's the entire reason this rule works at all. An emergency fund doesn't have to be finished to start working. Marcus banked his first full month of survival, 34 bricks, $1,700. By month 4, that's the exact month the 11:52 p.m. kitchen table session stopped happening for good. By month 14, 3 full months stood behind him, and the specific fear that used to live in the sound of his own engine had nowhere left to sit. The year is the destination. The panic dies in the first mile. If you're waiting to feel safe until the whole wall is finished, you've misunderstood what walls are for. Every course of bricks is shelter long before the roof goes on. 1 breath and the whole machine. 1 automated $50 brick every payday, no exceptions. Everything freed or found converts within 24 hours. No savings decision ever exceeds $50. Small unit, greedy capture, hard ceiling. Now watch what happens when 2 people holding the exact same paycheck run that machine. Or don't. Marcus had a co-worker, call her Paulette, same pharmacy, same years on the job, take-home pay within $40 of his own. I'm keeping these 2 nearly identical on purpose, because what happened between them was never about income. It came down to 1 decision on 1 lunch break 14 months ago. Both decided to start saving the same week. Marcus picked his tile. Paulette picked what the internet told her to pick. The impressive number, $500 a month. She went after it hard. For 2 months, she hit the target. And it felt incredible, like being handed a new identity overnight. This was who she was now, a saver, disciplined, on track. Month 3, her hours got cut. The plan missed. Month 4, catching up meant finding $1,000 in a single month, and the math laughed in her face. She quit. Quietly, the way these plans always die. No announcement, just a transfer that silently stopped happening one Friday and never started again. She restarted in spring. Same plan, same wall, same ending. She's on restart number 3 now. Her savings account this morning reads a number that rhymes with 0. Marcus's decision on that same lunch break looked small next to hers. $50 small. It was not. If Paulette's story stung a little, but if you found one of your own restarts hiding somewhere in that paragraph, good. Don't scroll past that feeling. It isn't an accusation, it's a diagnosis, and it arrived free of charge. Your plans didn't fail because you were weak. They failed because they were load tested for a life smoother than the one you're actually living. Let that be the last thing the old advice ever cost you. Month 11, Marcus's brakes went. The real thing, the grinding sound you feel in your jaw before your ears catch up to it. He drove it in anyway, teeth on edge the whole way. The mechanic came back with a number, $380. He slid his card across the counter, waited. The machine beeped, approved. He picked up his keys and walked back to the lot. And it wasn't until he was pulling onto his own street that he noticed what hadn't happened. No spiral, no midnight kitchen table, no frantic rearranging of numbers like furniture. 7.5 bricks came off a wall holding 4 months' worth of them. The wall simply absorbed the hit and kept standing like it had barely felt it. He told his sister later that night it was the single most expensive, boring afternoon of his entire life. That's the actual product here, not the $20,000 at the end. The boring, the quiet in this story was never a stylistic choice. It was the deliverable from the very first frame. Boring is what safety feels like from the inside. Before we finish, 2 honest edges. First, if your income genuinely sits below your survival line, if the math is negative before a single brick exists, the $50 rule isn't a shame device, and laying bricks isn't your first move. Fixing the income is. Benefits you've earned and haven't claimed. More hours. A higher rate. The harder conversation with your employer you've been putting off. That's a different video, and pretending a savings habit can patch an income gap is exactly the kind of hollow advice this channel exists to not hand you. Second, where the bricks live matters more than most people think. Marcus's wall sits in a high-yield savings account paying around 4%, roughly the going rate in 2026. Once his wall is finished, it will quietly lay about 16 of its own bricks every year without him lifting a finger. Eventually, the wall hires itself. How those accounts actually work, which ones are quietly lying to savers about their real rates, and the compounding math underneath all of it. That's the foundation beneath this foundation. It's the one piece I'm deliberately not cramming in here. It's coming. If you want to start tonight, and you should, here are the 3 moves in order. 1. Find your real survival number, the stripped-down, honest one. Divide it by 50. Write your brick count down exactly once, then put the paper away. You're not allowed to look at it again. That's the ceiling, already at work before you've laid a single brick. 2. Set the automated payday brick before you sleep tonight. $50, first transaction of the next cycle. Willpower is bankrupt by Friday afternoon. A standing transfer has never once had a bad week. 3. Start your conversion list. Every subscription, every fee, every forgotten drip you cancel from this day forward has exactly one destination within 24 hours, no exceptions. Where that wall should actually live, how the compounding math works underneath it. That breakdown is waiting on this channel whenever you're ready. No rush. Walls are patient. That's the entire point of them. 7:14 on a Friday morning in Toledo. The coffee maker is still gurgling. Same sound as the first scene if you were listening for it. A man moves $50 in the dark of his own kitchen and tells absolutely no one. Now you know exactly what you're looking at. It was never a payment. It was a tile. Set level and true, with acres of finished floor stretching out behind it, and a number he no longer has to carry in his head, waiting somewhere far ahead, patient, not going anywhere. Across town right now, Paulette is drafting restart number 4 around another impressive number that will not survive the summer. 2 people, 1 paycheck apart, 1 lunch break, 1 rule between them. You don't save a year. You lay a brick, and the best possible morning to lay your first one is the one you're about to wake up to.